A new report is claiming that government schools will lose almost $700 million in funding and that private schools will gain $1.3 billion unless there's an overhaul of schools funding. The Education Union says the government needs to urgently adopt the Gonski recommendations to provide greater equality, but private schools say they need more time to prepare for any changes.
One of the nation's most experienced education funding experts has found the federal budget is bad news for the nation's government schools.
$673 million cut is the funding equivalent of around 7,000 teachers. It would be a loss of that number of teachers in the public sector if fully implemented.
Dr Jim McMorrow is a former honorary professor of education at the University of Sydney and has been a key advisor to both state and federal governments for decades. His analysis of the federal budget shows that by 2015, private schools will be the big winner when it comes to federal government funding.
An increase of $1.3 billion in real terms would be an increase of teachers of some 12,000 teachers.
Should there be no education reform, we'll continue going backwards as a nation and we'll continue to fail not only our students but the nation as a whole.
But the peak non-government schools lobby argues the report's author has not taken into account funding from both state and territory governments and the trend for more students to go to private schools.
I would have thought that much of that increase would just account for the significant increase in enrolments that is estimated between now and 2015-16.
The Education Union is arguing for the Gonski recommendations to be acted upon. David Gonski called for a $5.6 billion injection into the school system to make funding more equitable. But the government is facing significant opposition from private schools.
The school funding outcomes are inequitable, they're erratic and they're highly volatile.
We've always said no school will lose a single dollar per student as a result of any decisions taken after the Gonski review. That's a rock-solid commitment.
The federal government says negotiations still have a way to go and a new funding model would not be introduced until 2014. Philippa McDonald, ABC News.